Welcome back to Quiet Strength with Kukua, a place where ancient wisdom quietly strengthens modern lives. Today, we explore a powerful verse that carries a message of hope, renewal, and life. Listen carefully. From the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 11, and I read, "And if the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of his spirit who lives in you." Now, that is a big sentence. It is the kind of sentence you might read once, then read again, then pause and say, wait, what exactly does that mean? So today, let me tell you a story about a tired farmer, a dying field, and the surprising lessons about life. Because sometimes the deepest spiritual truths appear in the most ordinary places. In a small village surrounded by rolling hills lived a farmer named Malachi. Malachi had strong hands, strong shoulders, and a reputation for growing the best crops in the region. If you needed advice about soil, rain, or stubborn goats, Malachi was your man. But one year, something went wrong. The rain stopped. The sun grew hotter. The soil cracked like broken pottery. Malachi walked through his field one morning and sighed. Nothing was growing. The plants looked weak. The ground felt lifeless. And for the first time in many years, Malachi whispered something he had never said before. "I think this land is finished." Now, farmers rarely say things like that. Farmers are hopeful people, but even hopeful people have days when the future feels dry. One afternoon, a traveler passed through the village. He wore dusty sandals and carried a walking stick. Malachi noticed him sitting under a tree beside the dying field. The traveler looked peaceful, almost amused, like someone who knew something everyone else had forgotten. Malachi approached him and said, "You picked the worst place in the valley to rest." The traveler raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" Malachi gestured towards the cracked soil. "This land is dead." The traveler leaned down and picked up a handful of dirt. He rubbed it between his fingers, then smiled. "This soil isn't dead." Malachi blinked. He said, "What? Have you looked around?" The traveler chuckled softly. "My friend, soil can look lifeless and still contain life waiting beneath." Malachi folded his arms. "Well, if life is waiting, it is taking its sweet time." The traveler pointed to the field. "Do you know what farmers sometimes forget?" Malachi raised an eyebrow. "That would be impressive, considering I am a farmer." The traveler laughed. "They forget that life doesn't always appear immediately." He knelt down and pushed a finger into the dirt. Sometimes a seed lies hidden beneath the soil for weeks, sometimes months, and then he said something interesting. Life is often invisible before it becomes visible. Malachi scratched his head thoughtfully. That idea stayed with him. Invisible life. Now, centuries later, a man named Paul the Apostle wrote a letter to believers in Rome. Inside that letter, he explained something extraordinary. He said the same spirit that raised Jesus Christ from the dead can live inside people. Think about that for a moment. The power that defeated death itself, living inside ordinary human beings. That is the message behind Romans chapter 8, verse 11. It is a message about life where we expect death, hope where we expect defeat, strength where we feel weak. Weeks passed. Malachi continued working his field, though he wasn't very optimistic. Then one morning, something surprising happened. A tiny green sprout pushed through the soil. Just one. Malachi stared at it like it had just told a joke. Then another sprout appeared, and another. Soon the field that once looked dead began slowly turning green. Malachi laughed out loud. All right, I see what you did here. Nature had quietly proven something important. Life was there all along. It simply needed the right conditions. The Apostle Paul understood something similar about the human heart. Sometimes people feel spiritually dry, tired, empty, like Malachi's cracked field. But Paul reminds us that God's Spirit brings life. Not just physical life, but renewed strength, renewed hope, renewed purpose. It is like rain falling on dry soil. Suddenly, the field remembers what it was created to do. That is, grow. Now, let us be honest. Human beings sometimes behave like Malachi at the beginning of the story. We look at difficult situations and say, well, that is finished. Meanwhile, God is standing there like the traveler saying, actually, I planted something there. Imagine a chef throwing away a cake after 2 minutes in the oven. Still liquid, completely ruined. Someone would say, friend, that is called butter. Give it time. Paul's message is powerful. He's saying the Spirit of God doesn't just visit occasionally. It lives in believers. And that Spirit brings life in 3 ways. 1, spiritual life. It awakens faith and understanding. 2, daily strength. It renews courage when life becomes exhausting. And 3, future hope. It reminds us that death is not the final chapter because resurrection already happened once. Months later, Malachi stood at the edge of his field. Green plants swayed in the wind. Birds circled overhead. The same land that once looked lifeless had become full of life again. Malachi smiled and whispered, maybe I gave up too soon. Then he remembered the traveler's words. Life can be hidden before it becomes visible. So what does this story teach us? Here are a few powerful lessons. Lesson 1. Life may be hidden beneath the surface. Just because you can't see growth doesn't mean nothing is happening. Lesson 2. God's Spirit brings renewal. Even tired hearts can find new strength. Lesson 3. Hope is stronger than despair. Just like seeds in soil, life waits patiently for the right moment. Then, lesson 4. Never declare something dead too early. God specializes in resurrection. Romans chapter 8 verse 11 reminds us of something extraordinary. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead is not distant. It is present, alive, working quietly within those who believe. Like seeds beneath the soil, like life waiting beneath dry ground. Thank you for spending this peaceful moment with Quiet Strength with Kukua. If this story encouraged you, share it with someone who might need a little reminder that life can return even after the hardest lessons. And remember, fields that look empty today may be growing something incredible beneath the surface. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep walking in quiet strength. Bye.